Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Wellbeing Show. And I've got a great guest today. We're going to be looking at Nigel's work as a wellbeing coach, well, particularly looking at forests and nature with children. Before we get into that, it's useful to have feedback from you, whether you like the video or not. And I can encourage you to sort of subscribe to the channel and share it with people. But in particular, if there is anything that comes up, Drew dropped me a note in the comments underneath if there's a particular issue that you like and would like to explore more, or if there are issues that are not covered in this that you think you'd like to hear more about it. I want to be as useful as possible to you in terms of the mental health space and the well-being space. So enough of that. Enough of my marketing. Here we go. Hello, it's Nigel Grimes joining us again. Second time around, you came back, so wasn't too horrific the first time around.
No, I enjoyed it first time. Thank you. No, pleased to be back.
Yeah. And you're a well-being coach. What does that mean?
I help people, people, organizations, individuals. So whether it's charities, companies, private individuals, public events, schools, I generally help them, if you like, complement or be an alternative to the medical side of things.
Okay.
So helping teaching people techniques, tools, or how to take advantage of the natural things in our world
Yeah.
to help manage their health, mental and physical health, if you
Great.
like.
I mean, it's who makes the distinction between the two these days? Not many people, I think. So
No, absolutely. Yeah, even doctors I know, most of them are I kind of look at it holistically.
yeah, I mean, I'm sort of it would be quite odd these days to imagine that you could have mental health or sort of psychological well-being if you're suffering physically awfully. It's going to be natural that it upsets you, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're upset, it causes
of course.
imbalance in your body and inflammation, which leads, as we all know, kind of leads to disease
Yeah.
and serious illnesses. Yeah,
And
yeah,
also, I think that achieving well-being when ill with, say, a chronic condition is possible also in my experience, and that does improve certainly the experience of the chronic condition. It doesn't cure it, but it certainly helps you manage it better.
yeah. No, absolutely. I don't think you necessarily need to be 100% healthy to be happy.
Yeah,
So, and yeah, there's no doubt that again, people may dispute this point, but there's a lot of argument to saying you can be in pain, but sometimes you can learn to manage that pain. That suffering sometimes is an option, which can be harsh for people when they're suffering, but um, there is some school of thought in that. So, you know,
yeah. I mean, I'm one of my team is a physio that is a pain specialist, and
mhm.
he may not put it in those terms, but he would certainly go along with those ideas that there are lots of psychological tools available to help manage those types of conditions and
Yeah,
um, lessen the severity of the experience without a doubt, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's quite clear these days. So where are you based, Nigel? You're in London, I think.
Yeah, I'm Southwest London,
Right.
stroke at the border of Surrey. Yes, I'm in Kingston, which
Okay.
is
Is that where you
yeah.
grew up?
Yeah, I was born in Kingston actually. I've only lived 5 years out of Kingston. So yeah, yeah, I live in North Kingston now. I'm quite near Richmond Park, and there's a nature
That must have
reserve at
been
the end
lovely
of
as a
the
kid
road.
to be around there.
Yeah, although
Or
I was
did you
lived the other
ignore it and
side of
take it for granted? Like, okay.
Kingston. Well, no, I didn't actually, because we were quite a poor family. Getting into the park and stuff was free access to fun. I can see the hill through the trees now. The trees are losing its leaves. Where my dad and I, before he got his multiple sclerosis, we used to run up and down the hills
Wow.
and to keep fit when I was 8 or 9. So no, I don't take for granted. We are lucky. We've got the river's only 10 minutes away as well, but I'm
Yeah.
still half an hour into London if I need to get in there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
great. And in Richmond, you've got the deer, haven't you, as well? So.
Which part? Yes, lots of deer. Yeah, yes. The rutting
And they're
season's
wild as
just
well. They're not
well,
tame.
yeah, the rutting season just finishing, but I have yeah, seen a few fights and had a few. deer storming across you, and you have to have your wits about you.
And
Yes,
I
for
remember
sure.
as a kid, first time I saw actual real live animals in the wild as opposed to, on TV or something. And it
Yeah,
just stunned me into silence, to be honest. It was extraordinary.
it's beautiful, isn't it, in their
Yeah.
natural surroundings? Yeah, yeah. No, the deer are. There's two types of deer, and they're beautiful. Yeah.
And I remember also I was on a cycling trip with some friends. We're going down the Wye Valley from Birmingham down towards Bristol, and I heard this strange high pitched neigh, and I slammed the brakes on my bicycle. I went, "What is that?" And it was a horse, and it was the first time I'd ever heard a horse properly. That wasn't on the TV.
Oh,
Um, it was so
yeah.
exciting, I have to say.
Mm.
It was sort of like I had to stay for until it did it again because it's like, oh, I can't leave. I got to stay with this thing. Whoa. But being a city boy was extraordinary. And I remember as a kid going to things like city farms and just adoring them, absolutely
Yeah,
adoring them.
yeah. Yeah, there's a city farm just a few miles from here, Dean City Farm, the other side of Mordenhall Park, where I do a National Trust place where I do forest bathing sessions
Yeah.
and work with yoga teachers and artists as well. And yeah, that taking my kids to that when they were younger was a lovely experience. They can get really close up and touch some of the animals. Yeah, yeah, it just gives them a real insight, but makes them feel comfortable and also appreciate nature, which is very important. And I touch
Yeah.
on that a bit later.
So
So
you were growing up around this sort of stuff and it just goes in. Do
yeah.
you have siblings as well? Do you sort of
Yeah, I've got a brother who's 13 months younger and two younger sisters, 9 and 7 years younger. Yeah, and we were lucky, my mum and dad, you know, kind of appreciated getting us out. And when we could, I mean, I used to work really long hours. And as a kid, I used to work in after school as well, really,
Mm.
to make money. But when we got out, but we were lucky, apart from an 18-month period in a council flat, I've always had a garden.
Yeah.
And my brother was a gardener. My two sisters spent half their life in gardening centres. If you ring them up, they're in a garden centre. And so my mum and dad used to go. In fact, I'm probably the least capable gardener of the four of us,
Right.
but uh, but I go out in nature a lot, and as well as that. But I do all my gardening in our family, but yeah, I'm just not as green fingered as my siblings. That's for sure.
To survive me, a plant has to be sort of pretty damn hardy, I'm telling you. A succulent might just about survive, might in its
Yes, yes.
but even that's touch and go, I'm having to say it, being honest with you. But I'm a great fan of nature. So, and as a child, I guess you sort of really appreciated it. I presume with your siblings, you just went and had a roaring old time. It was like
Yeah, and
you had
friends. I
like
mean,
five go everywhere, right?
yeah, I mean, in those days, you wouldn't be allowed to do it now, but I'd go into Richmond Park over there and we would collect tadpoles in March and April. We would take them home, put them in this massive bucket, and each day they'd grow another little limb and what have you. And you had newts and stuff, and you had stickleback fish, and you'd see them grow. And before they got too big, obviously, you'd put them back in the rivers and the ponds. Now, you wouldn't be allowed to do that today, and you kind of environmentally not acceptable. But actually, you got a real appreciation
Yeah,
for nature, and you saw nature growing.
yeah.
When you saw these little black things, and they get one arm, two arms, one
Yeah, it
over
is
there.
quite magical actually to
It,
see them.
it, it is. It is
It's really weird as
absolutely,
well. And as their
absolutely.
tail
Yeah,
disappears and stuff like that.
yeah. It's a beautiful experience, and we put them back. We had total respect for them.
Yeah.
We even used to do snail races. As a kid, you put your snail on top of the shed, and you'd kind of have a you'd have a you'd have a sprint race, you know, 4 inches, and then you'd have a longer race of 30 inches, and just watch the snails
Yeah.
make their way. But it's just again kind of fascinating how they moved and stuff in those days. So yeah, it gave you a real appreciation Um,
And did you notice at that point? I mean, later on we notice these things, but did you notice at that point how it made you feel being out in nature? Were you aware of your emotional responses? It's a bit much to ask of a child, but
yeah, I don't think I was, but I know I was happy outside.
right.
But then we were nearly always outside, whatever the weather. Like when I was talking about my dad run up those hills, I remember one specific Sunday morning, the snow was deep, so it was hard work running up those hills, but it was it was fantastic. So I do remember, I was out all the time on my bike. We'd take a football, we'd take a cricket set, we'd make
Yeah.
camps in the woods or under the bridges, and we'd play imaginary games.
Hmm.
It wasn't done for us. We weren't given the characters digitally like today and what have you.
Yeah.
We had to create the characters,
Hmm.
create the scenarios, the situation. We were playing war games because I was only born 16 years after the Second World War finished.
Hmm.
We would make games up, maybe we'd seen in films, but we had an appreciation of both. It's funny, you instinctively had appreciation of both sides of the so-called enemies of each other and stuff.
Yeah.
It was because you imagined and you were into those shoes of those individual soldiers or
Hmm.
teachers, doctors, whatever you were playing. It
Mhm.
was it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think there is more anxiety about letting kids go out from parents these days and sort of overinflated fears of things like stranger danger and all that sort of stuff. And also, to be honest, I think these days kids face the threat of violence from each other much more than, I mean, we had gangs when I was a kid, but they weren't tooled up necessarily and it wasn't as organized and as it is now. So I think some of the fears I think are justified in that sense.
Yeah, no, I think they are, but
Mm, mm.
uh yeah, but as you say, maybe because we hear so much more on the media in those days. We only had two or three TV channels, two or three Radio One, Radio Two. You didn't have as many so much noise out there, and the noise is what creates it, and we get sucked into the noise, and
Yeah,
people become anxious, and some people become anger, and whereas some of the exercises we do in in the forest bathing sessions for kids and for adults is actually reminding people through some of the exercises we do using our senses, you can turn away from that noise, you can turn away from that negativity. You can switch off you because it's constant. Radio, phone, um, the constant streams, even sitting on the bus, people are angsty and they're having loud conversations about things and
yeah,
on their phones or the playing music line, which causes stress for people. It is all around us. The ability to turn around and say, okay, that's not for me at the moment. I'm going to go into my little world, whether that's silence, whether it's listening to my favorite music, whether it's reading a book, whether it's meditating, just anchoring in my breath. I can get some relief from this, and relief is really important. And nature provides a lot of that relief.
yeah.
That's just one of the
Yeah,
tools we've
there's
got.
lots of
So,
evidence of that. We're going to go on to sort of look at what nature means in a second, because it
mm,
may mean something surprisingly different to what people imagine it means. So I think the word nature somehow has become associated with. Okay, I think I've got a frozen screen at the moment. Just going to keep talking until this comes back. There was a frozen screen there for a while.
there was, yeah, for about 30 seconds, I
All
think.
right.
Sorry, no.
We're back. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's a sort
Sure.
of, it's just a part of our life these days, isn't
Yes, it's real, isn't
it?
it?
I can't remember what I was saying when the screen froze, to be honest. But
You were saying we're going to talk about nature,
what
go
what
into
it
nature a bit
what the
more.
definition is. I think that people might imagine what when we're talking about nature, what we mean is, Mount Everest or the Dales or whatever,
Mm,
some mountains up in Scotland. But it's not really in terms of what we're talking about in terms of getting a therapeutic effect. But
yeah,
we'll come to that a bit later.
yeah.
I guess you haven't always been a well-being coach, though. You must have done something in between.
No, I haven't. I left school at 16. I worked in the post office, actually, local post office, serving
Yeah.
customers. Um, and then I ended up I got a bit bored local level and went into London headquarters
Right.
up in the city, and I ended up in marketing and showed an aptitude for marketing. So I met my wife, who was a marketeer graduate from Strathclyde, and then over the years, yeah, honed my marketing skills. Got reasonably senior, got some nice, responsible jobs, dealing with large customer databases of BT and Centrica, BA, etc. Had a good time trying to get the right message and the right products, the right customers, and all that jargon. But yeah, I did that for virtually 40 years. And, you know, I still turn my hand to it if someone wants to run something past me,
Yeah.
advice on marketing. But yeah, I kind of, you get to a certain age though, where you're not so keen on it, but also other people see you as a little bit, I guess, there's quite a bit of ageism around, to be honest with you. So it's, a lot of it's not even conscious, but it's there. So
Yeah.
like, there's lots of other isms around that aren't conscious. So yeah, but I love doing what I've been doing. I've been doing it for a few years, been teaching breathing for what, 13, 14 years now. And then developed over time mindfulness and meditation. I learned
What
forest
was your
bathing.
route into this field? What was the interest?
My route was really like lots of people, wasn't such a big crash for me, but I did wake up in the middle of the night 14 years ago, maybe 15 years ago now, not being able to breathe very well,
Wow. Having a
not
panic
being able
attack.
to sleep. Yeah, it's almost like a panic attack, I think. Yeah, now having had clients who do that, but I had no idea it was coming. Um, um, and looking back, I think combination of things. My two adopted daughters were becoming teenagers, and
Yeah.
identity is a big issue for teenagers at the best of times. And they had all the other stuff to go with it, their early life traumas and what
Yeah.
have you, neglect. Um, there was that. My wife was struggling a little bit to deal with that as well because I was working quite hard. But the company I was working at, I got switched teams, and it wasn't a team. It was full of eyes and me's, and so that was tricky,
Yeah.
um, uh, and very sales oriented company who wanted to sell things even if the client didn't want
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. No, no.
yeah, you know, the sort of thing. And I wanted to
Pretty
do the
rogue.
best thing. Yeah, I want to be do the right thing for the client because I did like to do the right thing. That's my intention
Yeah.
always. Yeah, my net one of my nephews had been very poorly and tried doing something that wasn't very nice, but he survived. And yeah, so it all kind of came on me. But I always thought, you know, laid back, nice, never been ill, never been in hospital since I was 4 years old. You know, despite my mum and dad having some mental health issues when I was a kid and not seeing them for a while, and my dad getting MS, and my mum dying 40 odd years ago now.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I hadn't been ill at all. But that was it. It was just there. He just kind of said, "Hey, Nigel, you're running on empty here. You need to sort yourself out." And I was lucky that I was able to find, although you know, keep my eyes and ears open for things. I found a breathing course because the doctors said, "Oh, you're fine. You got a low heart rate. You've
Mm.
got good blood pressure, etc., etc." You know, they didn't really have an answer. Um, so I found a breathing course, something called Buteyko, which is a breathing course. And Learn Buteyko helped me get through that. I've since retrained and I work with another Buteyko international clinic for Patrick McCowan, and that's how I now teach people that method. But at the time, that breathing method and walking down the road, because I still been here about 15 years in this house last week, walking down the road to sitting under the trees each afternoon
Yeah.
and doing the breathing meditation and having my Bernese mountain dog next to me, who was very nice. They're very calm dogs. Um, yeah, I got better really quickly. I
Right.
was really lucky. So I didn't suffer. I didn't have to turn to medicine. The breathing, resetting my breathing, which I think was decent before, but I'd lost the ability to breathe well. And nature, just being in nature, um, and just kind of letting go. I got my voice back, I got my strength back, I
Right.
started putting weight, sleep, eating again, over a few weeks. So I was lucky because some people suffer for a very long time, sadly.
Yeah, a lot of guys as well, and they'll you choose unhelpful ways of coping, like drink or aggression or whatever it is, and uh,
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't help any of that stuff. So,
no.
I mean, I'm guessing it's something to do with the fact that you had such a healthy childhood. You could gravitate towards what was going to be healthy and helpful for you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we were poor, and sometimes other relations gave us food and what have you. But in those days, you ate, most food was fresh.
Hmm.
You'd go down to the market every other day, and to the butchers every other day, and you buy fresh food and you would
Yeah,
eat a balanced diet. And yeah, I was lucky. I've always felt loved. So, if my parents haven't been here for like 30, 45 years, 40 odd years, I can still I still take my love with their love with me. It's with me. So I am lucky. And I know not everyone gets that from parents,
yeah.
of course. So
Well, secure attachments are fundamental, aren't they? The
yeah,
feel
absolutely.
felt sense of being loved and lovable. These are crucial things, and that can be developed at any point in your life, really. Sort of, even if you
Yes,
get it
yeah.
as a child, you can get it later as an adult. It's well worth working on. The idea, though, some people might, it's not to me, but some people might be finding it strange when somebody says, "Well, I had to learn how to breathe." I mean, surely we just breathe, don't we? I mean, I'm doing it right now. What do you mean I don't know how to breathe?
Yeah, there's
What do you
breathing and
mean,
there's
Nige?
breathing. Well, we all used to breathe very well.
Yeah,
And years gone past, and then about 200 years ago, industrial revolution took part, and we started producing different foods and processing foods. And actually, people have over time increasingly lost the ability to breathe well. And a lot of that is structural around the face, actually.
yeah,
So things like, and this isn't judging, and there is research on this if you look for it. It's not mainstream. There might be various reasons why it's not mainstream, but for example, when you're born, if you're breastfed, your muscles and your jaw and the uh, shape of your face, your palate and your nose, um, will the way you suckle will build muscles and structure of your face very early on. And then when you go on to food, if you get food, a mix of soft, but you get onto food where you chew, again, the shape of your face will develop so that your nostrils and your palate and where your throat is your key in relation to your throat and your airways will be optimized, which will allow you to breathe well and probably sleep pretty well.
yeah,
The opposite of that is if, and not everyone can breastfeed, as I say, but there are alternatives to
yeah.
replicate breastfeeding. And you eat lots of soft food and you're not building up structural face, you'll tend to have a chin that's set back
Hmm.
equal to, you'll have quite a long face, and which means your airways will be constricted and restricted.
Hmm.
So you will start to not sleep very well.
Hmm.
You might struggle to eat, swallow, etc., etc. So you're more likely to end up breathing through your mouth because your airways make you think you're not getting enough air in. So 30-40% of the population use their mouth to breathe, partly with their nose, whereas good breathing is generally nasal only. I mean, if you Google nasal versus mouth breathing these days, um, it's clear to see that nasal breathing is the way to go. And that's how we used to
Nasal
breathe.
breathing is common practice in, say, mindful meditation. It's common practice in yoga practice. Even my personal trainer is pushing us to breathe only through our noses when we're training. And uh,
Yeah, I do. I play football. If I do run or I do my personal training, I do my group training on a Saturday morning. Yeah, I've just breathed through the nose for 15 years now.
mm,
It's just so much more efficient. You don't get the lactic acid. Um, yeah, you can go longer and faster for yeah, much better. And a lot of the elite athletes are learning that, and so are the coaches now.
yeah,
You can, yeah. So it is becoming more well known, but it makes such a difference because if you breathe well, you sleep well. So a lot of kids these days, are very having interference with the mouth very early on because they're having teeth taken out. There's not enough room for their teeth because their
Yeah,
jaws haven't grown
yeah, yeah, yeah.
enough to put the teeth in, which then causes poor sleep. And poor sleep leads to going to school, not being able to concentrate, being labelled as a
Mm,
badly behaved kid, or judgment on the parents because the kid's not, can't focus and is not achieving. It kind of gets into a vicious circle, which then builds up anxiety amongst the kids, anxiety amongst the teachers because they've got their targets to set, Ofsted
mm,
targets, and then the stress on the parents who will, like little Johnny, they're high achieving parents maybe and have paid a lot of money in some cases,
mm.
and the kid can't achieve because he can't. It gets back to basic stuff of
And
breathing and
breathing helps regulate the nervous system as well. There's sort of that polyvagal stuff because the vagus nerve is back there, and you've got
yeah, the
meditation
breathing
and relaxation.
has an immediate impact on your autonomic nervous system. Your vagal nerve is linked to your endocrine system, so all your hormones, and it's also linked to your limbic system, where your adrenaline and cortisol
Yeah.
and memories and emotions, all that. You're absolutely right. It helps orchestrate and keep them synchronized and balanced and healthy. And that's,
One way we know that this stuff is real and practical is, for example, there's a technique called box breathing, which you'll know well,
yeah,
which the British Army use
yeah,
for combat. And box
yeah,
breathing, for people who don't know, is breathe in to four, hold to four, breathe out to four, breathe in to four, and that. So imagine a
yeah,
box, and you just breathe in and out on a box. And the British Army teach squaddies that so that they don't freak out on the battlefield. Um,
yeah,
and
exactly.
you
And the
can't
US,
find a better test than that for something like that.
no, and the US Navy SEALs, they do.
Do they do that one as well?
They do that, and they do other ones. They do some more of the extreme breath holding that
Yeah, because they're underwater.
I can teach, yeah, because they're underwater for a long
Yeah.
time, and you can hold your breath for, I think the record was like about 13 minutes. It's just
Yeah, I
something
don't plan to.
ridiculous.
It's
No,
fine.
no, I've
But
done 3 minutes in the past, but
I mean, I do a
yeah,
lot of these days. I do a lot of yoga because it's evidence to help with managing mood, particularly for men. Oddly enough, that's but
yes,
as part of exercise, and obviously that holds a lot of breathing, and there's a lot of that breathing in to a rhythm, holding to a rhythm, breathing out, and then that
yeah.
sort of intense belly breathing, the when your belly's going in and out really quick, and so that
Yeah, there's lots of different techniques. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And they all help and they all kind of they rewire your
really
brain.
do, yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
I
you're
learnt as well
breathing.
because I'm my background is a theatre actor, and of
Mm,
course, core to that was learning how to use your diaphragm, both for breathing, but also as a projective device so that you could use your voice much more effectively. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so
No, breathing's a fascinating subject in its
it
own
is,
right.
and it's sort of, but it
Isn't it?
still is. I know people hear this. I've learned to breathe, and I go, "What? What do you mean learn to breathe?"
Yeah.
Folks, I would suggest you get in touch with Nigel or somebody like him, or just do some research on it. You'll think you're breathing, and you probably are to survive, but
Yeah.
actually, and this is I think, the fascinating thing about Mother Nature. She doesn't waste time, so she doesn't create a special set of things for health. She builds it into what you have to do.
Mm.
And it's a lesson to learn. So making one of the most basic things that you have to do, breathing, part of your health and well-being, is exactly what Mother Nature would do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Literally what? Because it's about efficiency. And it's the same with any sort of activity. If you want to become more active in your lifestyle, you don't start off saying, I'm going to run a marathon. What you start off doing is looking at your everyday activities and how can you substitute active for passive. So in terms of your journey to work, for example, can part of it become walking? Can part of it become cycling?
Yeah.
If you're in work in an office block and you need to go to the third or fourth floor, can you use the
Use
stairs
the
for a couple of
stairs.
floors? I mean, it's if you can make those types of changes, they are sustainable, and because they're sustainable and and you can repeat them, the more you repeat something that's good for you, the more benefit you get from it.
Yeah, and you do feel so different I had obviously lots of clients. They just feel different. They feel more alive, they feel more
Yeah.
capable, they're more switched on, they sleep better. It's just, yeah, it makes huge difference to their life,
So you
you
had the
know.
breathing, you got the insight into that, and then
Yeah.
because nature was part of your life, when did you formally begin to go, I notice this stuff? Because I know you do forest bathing, and
Yeah.
so tell it, how did you get into understanding what I might call the biophilic stuff around nature, how we're bonding?
Yeah. Well, obviously always had a love for nature. And when we had the girls when they were younger, we used to take them out every day into the woods, into the park, and what have you. And I would quite naturally, on occasions, get them to slow down, get them to close their eyes
Yeah,
so they could feel the warmth of the sun or the cool air or the breeze,
yeah,
listen, etc., etc. And it did used to help. In fact, it still helps one of my daughters who live has got a few special additional needs, and so nature still helps. So I guess that's natural. But my wife bought for me for it was an anniversary present, forest bathing session in Kew Gardens,
yeah.
which isn't too far from me, and I did it, and it was lovely.
Now I've got to ask,
Susan Ninja
what
ran
on
it, and
earth, I have to ask Nigel, what on earth is forest bathing? Is
forest
it some sort
bathing.
of nudist colony you got involved with, mate?
Yeah, and there's no water involved, and there's no nudist. No,
God, tell us
it's
why.
not.
You
It
use
doesn't
these
involve
terms, and I can just
naturists.
imagine people going, "What?"
Yeah, no, exactly. So what it is really, it was a session that was run.
Yeah,
Who I trained with after by the Forest Bathing Institute. I trained with them and got my qualifications. Um, Basically, it's going into nature, but it's really slowing down
yeah,
and doing things mindfully. So, and using your senses. So we'll do visual exercises. So we'll look. I won't do the exercises because it's not. But you do different exercises with your eye, and you notice the detail more.
yeah,
We'll do some smelling. So actually, quite often we get on our hands and knees and we'll dig some dirt.
yeah, yeah,
And you know, like the kid, my sister had a worm house for about 2 years. She kept in the
yeah.
garden. So you get down and you get dirty with the dirt. Now,
And
but you always
exactly, if you
give
go out
people,
with a toddler into these spaces, that is literally what they will do.
they will naturally do that.
They will be
Yeah.
fascinated by it, and you can't go anywhere. Like a
No,
park is fatal. If you've got a toddler in tow and you need to get somewhere, forget it.
quite quick.
You're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going anywhere except that park and exploring it fully.
Exploring it and they're picking up everything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So yeah, so dig in. And again, if there's people with sensory issues, you don't have to get down in the dirt. And I've got wipes afterwards for the ones who are really clean. But there's a lot of proof around again, research that says the world's too obsessed with hygiene. I don't have any allergies. Most people of my age don't have allergies.
mm,
As we swallowed dirt, we would have taken stuff in. It goes into microbiome and
mm.
it's good for you. It's your immune system in your gut.
Also, I
But
think there's a lot of research around allergic reactions because we live in a toxic environment. We've got more chemicals in the environment.
there's more chemicals. Yeah, exactly. But if you can get out in nature and build up your immune system, you might be able to deal with those toxic environments a little bit more because you've got a stronger immune system.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll go out and we'll do touch. So I've got some things
Shall
here, a
we?
plate full of nature,
Oh,
if you like.
great. I love
And
it.
so there's these. You can touch these, just simple plants like these. Kids touch them. They're kind of smooth on one side, and lots of these leaves are hairy on the other, or dry. You can look at the patterns.
Yeah.
It's interesting on leaves because you get the lines coming across like the veins of the trees of the leaves, and some meet perfectly in the middle, and others are just
Yeah.
random.
Yeah.
But doing things like,
I'm more like a random leaf, I have to say.
oh yeah, but just
Yeah.
doing things like that and
Oh,
just
great.
touching and
I'm
stuff.
really
They're
jealous I
just
haven't got my own little plate.
so
Oh,
yeah.
thanks. I'm not, I'm leaving this conversation. I'm going to go off and get one.
Yeah, exactly. There's
I
lighting on that.
don't want to
It's
talk to
beautiful.
you. I want to go and get a bit of
Yeah,
nature in my
I'll
life.
put them all back. I'll put them all
Stop
back in the
it.
local
Stop
woods. Don't worry.
it.
Tomorrow morning. So the
I
council aren't on
know
to me.
definitely. Literally, I'm going to go and do that later today. I'm going to go and
Yeah.
grab
Now you
stuff.
touch, you smell, and different parts of your fingers. Yeah, the palms of your hands, if you put your cheek against moss or against some of those, it's just so stress relieving. It's like
Yeah.
having a facial, but it's free.
I
You
also
don't need to go to
tend
a
to people who
spa.
might be a bit cynical about this, like this tree hugging hippie that's telling us to go and
Yeah, but
what?
yeah, but isn't it?
Ex-marketing salesman, what's happened to you? Where's the
Yeah,
key
yeah. What's
thing
happened to
gone?
me? That's hard, and I thought you worked in data.
That's right, exactly.
You know,
But people should know
ROI.
this, for example. There's the research around, say, green spaces in cities is really interesting. The reason why we invest in them. It's not just ecology, which is true, and it's not just healthy air and stuff like that, which is true. But there's actually research that shows that violent crime drops when you build a park.
Absolutely.
Because of
I
all
mean, it's
these things I'm
astonishing.
talking about, it
Yeah.
increases bonding between human beings. So, bonding with nature or experiencing nature, becoming more mindful, makes you feel more connected to the people around you. And when you're more connected to people around you, you're less likely to stick a knife in them. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. When you walk in the woods or in the park,
Yeah,
you smile and say hello to everybody.
that's right.
They
Exactly.
don't even have to have a dog because the dog is
Yes.
another multiple factor that you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
all the
Yeah,
dogs,
yeah.
local dogs. But you do. Whereas if you're walking over London Bridge or you're walking down the street, I mean, I smile and say hello, and people think I'm odd, of course, but
Well,
particularly
that's
living
because
in
you are odd,
London.
Nigel. Let's
Yeah,
face it.
yeah, probably. But people, yeah, people
Yeah.
just different. Their mindset and
Yeah.
their
And just
their
to sort of
their
really
hormones.
nail this one down, because there was research in Canada, which I read some years ago, that was asking this question: what amount of nature do you need to have in your life to get this shift in your consciousness, which let's call a mindfulness shift, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it studied things like people waiting at bus stops and looking at trees, and those that didn't look at the trees. And the mindfulness shift was happening just by looking at a tree while standing waiting for a bus.
Yeah, I know it's
I mean,
astonishing. I know. Well, they've
that's
got
it.
research.
Boom.
Yeah, they
That's
got research that if you're in a hospital room recovering from an operation and there's
yeah.
a picture of a tree or there's a tree outside your window, you recover quicker.
That's right. And
It's
there's a
it's
whole branch
amazing.
of architecture called biophilic design, which is
Yeah,
bringing in natural shapes into buildings and
yeah,
built environments to try and
yeah,
produce that impact, you know,
yeah,
and it's astonishing to think. There's also this whole movement. I know you're not much of a gardener, but there is like Thrive is an organization that promotes
yes.
gardening.
I've done.
You
Yeah, I've
know Thrive
supported them
well,
in
I'm
the
sure
past.
you
Yeah,
do.
yeah, they're great. Yeah,
And sort of getting people involved in gardening. I remember when my stepfather Alf, who was of the war generation, so everybody in the war generation could garden, could grow their own
yes,
food,
yeah.
and
You
he
had
taught
to.
me
Yeah,
to grow food, and I just remember being astonished at how happy I was, you know, growing carrots.
yeah.
And I remember the first time I saw sprouts and on the stalks, and it's like sprouts grow on stalks. That's bonkers.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember growing tomatoes and just sticking a potato in the ground, and then a few months
Oh,
later, you've got
potatoes.
30
What is go
potatoes.
I know what is going on with potatoes. It's like absolutely incredible. They just proliferate everywhere, don't they? You start with
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. Yeah,
So all of that stuff, I mean, I think I mean, not far from me or where I just moved from, there was a community garden, small community orchard, which had lots of school kids in that attended it. And they've got little spaces for wasps and bees and other insects.
yeah.
And they get the local community involved. And these things have a remarkable impact on improving well-being and health.
Yeah, I know some people who run well-being in some of the kind of harder estates, if you like, poorer estates around here, and the community gardens are a godsend to some
They
of them.
really are.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah,
And sort of, and the evidence is strong enough now that GPs are referring people into these types of services, and into walking groups. And it's called social prescribing, and people should check it out with their doctors.
yeah,
How
GPs.
much
Yeah, no, it's
social
big.
prescribing do they do? Because there's a lot of GPs now can pay for courses like Nigel's and like Thrive's and it's absolutely fantastic and transformative. I want to push us on because I'm aware of time,
Yeah, of
and
course.
you've done this crazy thing. I don't understand why people do this, but you've written a book. I mean,
Yeah,
what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. Who thought
Why?
I'd be?
Why
Who
would
thought?
you put yourself through
Who
that?
thought I'd be an author, eh? I had
Right.
no idea I'd ever be an author. Then 3 years ago, I had this, well, 2.5 years ago, I had this idea and kind of did an outline of, because there's lots of books
Total
around
masochism
nature.
in my book.
There's,
I mean,
there's loads of books around nature
yeah,
and the power of trees, but they tend to be scientific and aimed at adults. And I thought, well, that's all well and good, but actually, we need to go, to give the pun, but we need to get to the root of the issue, and it
yeah,
starts in
yeah,
childhood.
yeah,
And kids aren't going out as much anymore.
yeah,
And actually, you can see parents who are struggling to know what to do when they take kids out. So there's those kids who get down in the dirt and play. But I heard a conversation only a few weeks ago actually on the bus. I thought, oh, this is perfect. I wish I could have recorded it. It was a mum saying to her friends, "Oh my God, it's half term next week, the October half term. What are we going to do with the kids? They drive me mad. They're going to be in the house. They're going to da da da." And I'm thinking, that's exactly why I've written this book.
great.
So,
You didn't
so
have a
this book,
copy on you at the time, did you? You could have given it to
no, unfortunately, no,
her.
unfortunately not. It's just a
What, you don't
PDF
walk around
word
clutching
for.
a box.
No, 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 I will now. Now I've got the book. Now I've got the book.
Ah, he's got it.
Ta-da!
What's it called? The Forest Secret.
Forest Secret, and helping children to discover the magic of nature.
Beautiful.
So it's available in paperback and hardback.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the book really is to help parents, grandparents, caregivers, even educators. It's useful for teachers as well. Anyone who's kind of with children, and it's got three elements to it really to help them encourage people to get into nature because kids are getting more anxious, as we know. They're struggling. The demands on them are
Yeah.
immense with SATs and various things. Not criticizing the education system, but there's a lot of demand on the kids that filters through to teachers, filters to parents. That vicious circle I was talking about earlier. And so the book's got a storybook element. So it's got some really pretty. Amelia and Estelle have done some amazing
Oh, I love that. That's great.
visuals, illustrations for it. Really makes the story. So the story's about a little girl who's kind of overwhelmed with digital world, busy school.
Yeah.
She's quite a quiet little kid, but she's overwhelmed. So grandma takes her into the woods, and grandma teaches her to slow down.
That's
Grandma
just fantastic.
gets her to
That's
listen,
absolutely
to use
perfect.
her senses. And then the girl feels different. And that's so you go through this story of the different senses and things, and she comes out taking the peace and the calm home with her to a house because it has a longer term effect going into nature. It can last days or
Oh,
weeks.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there's the other elements of the book where I've got, I think it's about 10 games you can play. So you can pretend you're a tree. You can uh, go searching for something smooth, something rough, something prickly, something tickly, something, so it's just like a scavenger hunt for living things. And then there's the piece I touched on earlier where there's a couple of pages on what you're referring to, research on getting kids into nature and what it does for them
Yeah.
from across the world. So it's not just in the UK. What getting in nature does for kids, for their education, for their mental health, for their physical health, etc.,
And
and
it's
how
a
they
really
grow
important
up.
point. I mean, as a professional, it's a really important point that you make about transcultural, transnational effects, so that we know it's not just limited to ourselves, that it's more likely then to be something that's hardwired into us as a species,
Absolutely, absolutely.
a
Um,
basic need, as it were, as opposed to
yeah,
a specific cultural need.
yeah.
Um,
I talked.
so
Yeah, I talked.
what we
Sorry.
haven't said, I mean, this is really interesting because, and this is the bit that is also, I think, really important to understand for parents is that in doing this with your children, of course, you as a parent will also get the same psychological benefits.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. You're in this virtuous circle of all of you getting the benefit. So unlike maybe if you take your kids to an event which is exhausting for you as a parent, and your parent might be thinking, listen, I've got so much I do with the kids. Don't ask me to do something more. Actually, this type of activity will automatically make you feel better as a parent not about
Yeah,
your kids and your parents and strategy. You won't be ticking boxes, but it will have exactly the same impact on you psychologically, physiologically, emotionally, as it's having on your children. All of you will equally improve your mood and your sense of well-being.
yeah, absolutely. And you'll build that connection. And the other thing is, it will help you appreciate nature. And for
Yeah,
the young ones, if they've been in nature, they're more likely to want to protect it as they get older
yeah.
and be respectful of it.
And I know there's no research for this, but I'm also guessing because the children have eco-anxiety these days, and
Mm,
actually taking them out into nature is going to be a brilliant way of soothing that because they are justifiably concerned about what old people like me are doing to their heritage.
their world, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's dreadful what we're doing. And but
yes,
getting back and discovering, well, there's some nice healthy trees, there's lots of worms, there's some beautiful they might see a bat or
yeah,
two. I remember the first time I saw a bat and it circled around a tree I happened to be sitting under. And again, it was one of those things of like, is this is this like fairy wonderland?
yeah, yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean? I was like
yeah,
so
no, absolutely. I mean, seeing black bats when you go out at night at dusk, just swimming above your head, feeling them, but they're not touching you, and yeah,
it's
is a beautiful
astonishing.
feeling. And when you see those, you see the odd owl sitting in a tree at night. Oh, they're so beautiful.
And I tell you what it's done for me as a person is that like the way I do holidays now is I get my tent and I go in the middle of wilderness and I walk out into it and I have my water filters. I'm one of those people I go hut to hut in the Alps.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful,
yeah,
lovely. Yeah,
that's what I do now with my life.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and it's extraordinary. And over the years, I've just built this set of confidence and skills so that nature now has become my best friend.
yeah. Look after you. Yeah. If you trust nature and you build up that relationship, yeah, absolutely. And you can build that
Yeah,
from a very young age. I think it's important. So that's the aim of the book. And if it gets out there, it's available obviously on Amazon, Blackwell's, Waterstone soon
great.
across the world, really. And
Well
it's
done.
I do believe it can make, and will make. If it only makes a difference to a few families, it's done its job.
It's improving the world, making the world a better place, mate. So
Yeah,
hold up the book again so people can see it. The Forest Secret. Beautiful book. Do you have a website, Nigel?
I do. The book's not quite featured on the website yet, but my website for all my other services, including supporting schools and taking adults into nature, is nigelgrimeswellbeing.com.
Great. And the book will be on there soon, I imagine, with links and stuff like that. But The
Yeah,
Forest
yeah,
Secret by
yeah,
Nigel Grimes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been concentrating on getting the book ready out into stores, but it will be available. But yeah, it's going to make a few people have bought it already and are raving about
brilliant.
it, and it's for Christmas. It's going to be perfect.
Brilliant. Listen, super to have you back. You stay there, folks. I can't urge you strongly enough to go and buy Nigel's book if you've got children. Even if you don't have children, you can pretend to have them and go and enjoy nature. Who cares? And the idea is to have fun. Having fun in an environment that's naturally healing is just such a win-win situation. It's a no-brainer, folks. It's an absolute no-brainer. Nigel, thanks for having you back on, or coming back on. And
Thank you,
you
Noel.
stay
It's been
there.
great fun.
Bye bye for now, folks, and I'll see you all at the next episode. But please do press like, leave some comments, let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more about, what you'd like me to shut up about, which is probably most things. But there you go. And bye bye for now.